Hey guys, this is Jesse from Central Athlete, and today we're talking about how to optimize body composition. And I'm not going to give a ton of specifics here. Really want to give you some of the principles and some of the frameworks that we use when we assess and we consult with our clients here at Central Athlete. And so one of the most beneficial things that we've done here at Central Athlete is we've developed a hierarchical framework similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that framework. And so what it is, it's a pyramid, and what we want to do is we want to build a solid foundation before we focus on some of the middle or top pieces. And it makes no sense to focus on the top piece when we're missing things below it. So think about it in an ordering system or a hierarchical system. So we use this to help people optimize body composition, but more importantly, we build value around the concepts that we're educating our clients with. And so the first principle is stress. Okay, this is one of those things that is really ubiquitous in terms of us hearing about this throughout our lives, but it's not as understood of how stress physically implicates as it relates to body composition. So when there's too much stress in the system, if we look at animals, for example, let's say animals in captivity, if say a zebra is put in the Cincinnati Zoo and it's kind of a little anxious zebra and it doesn't like its environment, what's going to happen is it's going to be okay for a while. But when things get really bad is when it's been there for a while, it's become super stressed, it's not in sync with this environment, is one thing that we see is organisms tend to lack their ability to reproduce. And really that's an organism's only job, is to perpetuate its DNA into the future. And so that's a great analogy for stress, is when that can be physical stress, right? It doesn't really like its environment, it's too hot, it's too cold, not enough space. It can be psychological stress, it can be anxious because maybe there is a predator somewhere close by. If we think about this in the context of human beings, it's very, very similar. It can be sleep, it can be environmental, it can be emotional, toxic relationships, toxic not just personal relationships, but also relationships with work and lack of extracurricular activities and hobbies. These are all things that we need to consider, yet human beings are extremely intuitive about them being stressful, and usually people have a pretty good pulse of how stressed they are. They can feel it. So that's the first thing. If an organism or a human being has a lot of stress, there needs to be more digging as to what the stressor is and some sort of plan of action to help alleviate stress. Now, if we're talking about putting somebody on a crazy nutrition plan and a crazy training program, if there's so much stress going on, we're just adding more stress to the system. And these changes that I'm talking about, optimizing body composition, adding more muscle, losing fat, it's just simply not going to work. Okay. The next layer up is sleep. Clinical Pearl is about 8.5 hours, blacked out, should be nice, uninterrupted sleep in a cool environment with ambient noise. And if you're waking up several times in the evening, or more specifically between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning, when the peak of growth hormone is released, those are telltale signs that something is going on. Okay? The third step is going to be nutrition. Okay? So if nutrition isn't dialed in, we're not going to get the body composition results that we're looking for. Remember that also sleep, one night of poor sleep can put you into a state of insulin resistance. So no amount of nutrition is going to be able to unwind an insulin resistant state due to poor sleep. So when we get into nutrition, some of the most important things to consider as it relates to optimizing body composition are, first, adequate protein. Roughly, that's about 1 gram per pound of body weight. And then the second is blood sugar management, which I'm not going to go into detail with because we've spoken about it in other videos, but protein is going to be your biggest lever to increase skeletal muscle mass, while blood sugar management is going to be the lever to reduce fat mass. And then the final piece is training, and what that should look like specifically is what we've coined the term of functional resistance training. So essentially it's compound movements in a varied way, where it's going to stimulate high levels of lactic acid, which is associated with increased levels of growth hormone, which has been correlated with lower levels of body fat. What we really like to do is we like to have a couple of key performance metrics, so say like a trap bar deadlift, a dumbbell shoulder press, maybe it's a weighted pull-up, and over time we want to watch these numbers improve, because we know that if you're getting stronger, what that usually means is there's going to be some neurological developments, but there's also going to be some anabolic and muscular developments as well. So the client is likely adding more muscle mass if they're able to add weight to particular lifts over time. And the second piece that we like to do is we like to integrate something that's typically called German body comp training, which is known in the strength and conditioning field as a type of training that's used to, again, create high levels of lactic acid in the system through functional movements, and that's associated with a leaner body composition. So we like kind of meshing the two of having some big compound movements where we're really trying to drive some strength numbers up, and then we have more auxiliary work where we are trying to put it into a way where it kind of stimulates this kind of burning sensation in the muscles. So remember, there's two ways to get stronger or create muscle hypertrophy, which is actually enlarging the cross-section of the muscle fibers, and that's through lifting heavy weights, arguably 68 to 70% of your 1 rep max or heavier, as well as lifting light weights to failure with higher times under tension, specifically a longer eccentric portion. So guys, I hope you found this useful, and stay shredded, my friends.